Welcome to today's story, Silent Love. This is a touching tale about a young woman born deaf who discovers that love can cross every boundary, even the boundary of silence. It is a story about courage, trust, and the power of the heart to listen when ears cannot. Chapter 1. Music in the Past. Before I was born, my mother played music with 4 friends. In our living room there is a photo of them together. Their names are Evie, Grace, Angela, Kate, and my mum. They were called the Sweet Pepper Band, and they played South American songs. Mum played the guitar. In the photo, Mum has long dark hair. She is wearing a big hat, a red shirt, and yellow trousers. She looks South American, but she isn't. She is English. She has a big smile in the picture, and she looks very beautiful. She is still beautiful today, but now her hair is short, and the dark color comes from a bottle. She doesn't play guitar much these days. The guitar just waits in the corner of the living room until Evie, Grace, Angela, or Kate visit. When I was small, I liked to put my little hand on the front of Mum's guitar while she played. I could feel my hand move a little because of the sound. Mum told me that was called vibration. She was glad that I could feel her music through the guitar. She didn't get angry, even when one day I had blue paint on my hand and touched the guitar. Mum wanted me to feel her music because I can't hear it. I was born deaf. Sometimes I think that is why she doesn't play often now, because she knows I can't hear. And now that I'm 18, my hands are too big to put on the guitar's front. I don't know if Mum was sad to have a deaf baby. She always tells me that when I was born I was beautiful. I had lots of blonde hair and blue eyes, which later turned brown like hers. Mum doesn't look sad. She is always smiling. She smiles more than anyone I know. She is always cheerful, and people love that about her. The children at Busy Kids Day nursery, where we both work, all love her too. Busy Kids is her own nursery. She started it 5 years ago. Mum is very good with children. I remember being about 5 or 6 years old and feeling unhappy about something. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember what she said. We sat close in a chair, and she held me in her arms. After a while she looked into my face and used her hands to sign. Mum and I always use sign language to talk. She told me that we can choose to be happy or sad. She said, "Life is short, so choose to be happy." I try to remember her words every day. I want to be like Mum, because she is a wonderful person. I don't know much about my father because he left soon after I was born. I only know that he was a musician too, and he is French. Now he lives in Paris. Mum and Dad met when he was working in Norwich for a year. They fell in love, got married, and he moved into our house. Norwich is lovely, but it is smaller and quieter than Paris. I think my father became bored. Or maybe he was unhappy because I was born deaf. That was when he left to live with his family in Paris. He never came back. Some of my friends don't talk to their parents much. For example, my friend Suzanne sometimes tells her mother she is with me when she is really with her boyfriend. Suzanne's mother always worries about her, but Mum and I are different. We are very close, and I never tell her lies. She doesn't worry too much, so I usually tell her everything. But I didn't tell her when I first fell in love. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt so strange. It was like being on a boat in a stormy sea. Sometimes I was scared of my own feelings. And there was another problem. I didn't even know the name of the man I loved. Chapter 2. The Boy at the Shop. Try for a moment to imagine my world. Stop what you are doing and cover your ears. Do you hear nothing at all? Or do you just hear quieter sounds than usual? When Mum and I go walking, She loves listening to birds singing, but in my world there are no birds. There are no loud men fixing roads, no drunk people shouting outside bars, no babies crying. The boy I love does not live in my world. He lives in the hearing world. The first time I saw him, he was outside the shop across from our house. He was putting apples and oranges on the table in front of the shop. His black hair shone blue in the sunlight. I watched from my bedroom window. I smiled because of the careful way he placed each piece of fruit like an artist. While I watched, a big motorbike went past. He looked up and smiled at it. He heard it before I even saw it. Then a little girl fell off her bike near the shop. He ran to help her. He knew she needed help because he heard her cry. In just 1 minute, I knew 4 things about him. 1. He had beautiful black hair. 2. He liked motorbikes. 3. He was gentle with fruit and kind to children. 4. And most of all, he could hear. Before I saw him, I didn't often think about being deaf. It was normal for me. All my boyfriends before were deaf too. But after I saw this boy, I wanted to be like other people. I didn't want to be different anymore. I soon found out that he only worked at the shop on Saturdays. From then on, I went there every Saturday to buy something. Each week I wanted to talk to him, but I always just smiled and paid for things I didn't even want. Mum sometimes looked at me strangely when I came back. "We didn't need apples, Samantha," she said once. "I bought some yesterday." Another time she said, "We already have biscuits in the cupboard." Every Saturday I felt excited, but also nervous, about crossing the road to the shop. I played with the money in my pocket, like a small child buying sweets. Sometimes I stood outside, pretending to read the postcards in the window before I went in. On the cards people wrote about things they wanted to sell. Car, 5 years old. Cat, needs a good home. Large fridge, nearly new. One Saturday, I read the postcards twice before going inside. I didn't know what to buy. Mum and I had already been to the supermarket the day before. The boy was busy serving bread and cakes to a woman with 2 children. That gave me time to think. At last, I chose to buy a newspaper. The shop was usually crowded on Saturdays, and the boy only had time to smile at me and take my money. But that day was different. After the woman left, the shop was empty. Only he and I were there. I took my newspaper to pay. He smiled at me, but when I tried to smile back, my mouth felt stiff like wood. Then he spoke. I watched his lips carefully. At school we had lessons in lip reading, so I can do it quite well. I thought he said something about a big fire. Then I looked down at the newspaper and saw a photo of a house burning. The fire looked huge and red in the picture. I hoped nobody was inside. That is what I wanted to say to him. How terrible. I hope nobody was in the house. But I stayed silent. I don't like using my voice. When I was a child, other kids often didn't understand me when I tried to speak. Sometimes they laughed. That made me believe my voice was strange. I didn't want this boy to think I was strange too. When I looked up again, he was still talking. He waited for me to answer. But I couldn't, because I didn't hear him. So I only smiled, paid for my paper, and left. As I walked back across the road, I felt sad. I was sure he now thought I was strange. Chapter 3. My closest friend. When I came into the house holding the newspaper, Mum looked at me. We signed to each other. "Are you all right?" she asked. I tried to smile. "Yes, I'm fine," I replied. She studied me for a moment, as if she wasn't sure, then said, "Ron's here. He's in the living room." That news made me happy again. Ron is my best friend. We used to live next door when we were children. Now he is a student in London, so I don't see him very often. He is studying to become a teacher for deaf children. He chose that because of me. Ron learned sign language when he was very young, so he could talk with me. I quickly went into the living room. Ron was sitting on the sofa reading a magazine. When he saw me, he put it down. "Hi, Sam." He signed and smiled. "Hi, Ron." I smiled back and kissed him. "How are you?" I was really glad to see him. I knew I could tell him about the problem I had with the boy in the shop. Ron understood these things. I still remembered when he first fell in love. It was actually with my friend Suzanne. Mum looked into the room. I saw her mouth move as she asked Ron if he wanted some tea. She liked Ron almost as much as I did. When we were little, she often took both of us to the sea for the day. Once, I asked Ron what the sea sounded like. He told me. The sea is loud when it crashes on the beach, but it can also be soft and quiet. Usually, I don't feel sad about being deaf, but I love the sea, and I often wish I could hear what it sounds like. I told Ron quickly about the boy from the shop before Mum came back with the tea. "Actually, I think I know him," Ron said after a moment. "My brother's friend works at that shop on Saturdays. He's a student at the university. He lives in Pete's house." Pete is Ron's brother. I couldn't believe it. The boy I liked lived in Pete's house. "What's his name?" I asked. "Jim," Ron told me. "Pete's having a party at his place tonight," Ron added. "Come with me. Jim will probably be there." Parties are hard for me because I can't easily talk with people. With my deaf friends, it's different. We sign to each other and laugh a lot. At those parties, I feel in the middle of everything. But with hearing people, I feel outside as if I don't belong. Ron understood what I was thinking. "Come to the party," he signed. "Please, I'd like you to be there." "Okay," I agreed at last, just as Mum came in with the tea. Chapter 4. The Party Night. Later, I was standing in my bedroom looking at my clothes when Mum came in. In one hand I had a green dress, in the other a short black skirt. I wasn't happy with either of them. Mum picked up a blue jumper from the bed and gave it to me. "The weatherman on TV says it will snow," she said. Then she smiled and kissed me. I felt guilty that she didn't know about Jim. I decided I would tell her later, if there was something real to say. It was almost spring, but the weather was still cold. On the way to the party, Ron and I stopped to buy some drinks. By the time we reached Pete's house, snow was starting to fall. Ron looked at me as we stood by the door. "Okay?" he asked. I smiled. "Yes, I'm fine." A pretty girl in a red dress opened the door and said hello to Ron. I didn't know her. I smiled politely and followed him inside. We went first into the kitchen. It was crowded with people. All the girls wore short dresses or skirts. I was the only one in jeans and a jumper. Ron and I carried our drinks into the living room. That room was full too, and it was very hot. But I couldn't take my jumper off, because I wasn't wearing a shirt underneath. The jumper was a mistake, but I tried not to think about it. "The music's really loud," I told Ron. "How do you know that?" he asked with a smile. "Because I can feel it in my legs," I said. It was true. The vibrations travelled from the floor, into my feet, and up through my body. It felt like when I used to put my hand on Mum's guitar. A man came over to us. It was Pete. He said something to Ron, then looked directly at me. I saw his lips form the words, "Hello, Sam." I wanted to ask, "Where's Jim?" But I didn't. I just said hello and smiled back. After a while, Pete went to change the music. Ron kept talking to me. People in the room watched us sign. They always seemed interested when they saw me use sign language. Ron told me stories about his new life in London. He talked a lot about a girl named Mary. "Is Mary your girlfriend?" I asked. His face turned a little red. "Not yet," he said, "but I want her to be." I thought about Jim. Why wasn't he here? It was his house too. Ron saw what I was thinking. "He'll come soon," he signed. Around 10 o'clock, Ron was across the room talking to some other friends. I felt too hot in my jumper, so I went outside into the garden. Everything was white with snow. The garden looked like a big cake covered in icing. I thought I was the first person to walk on it, but then I saw footprints. Someone else was there. A moment later, something icy hit my face. Snow. Chapter 5. Snowball Fight. More snowballs flew past my face. Then I saw someone step out from behind a snowy tree. It was the boy from the shop. "Jim!" I laughed and quickly made a snowball of my own. I threw it, but Jim moved fast, and it hit a tree instead. I started to make another one, but before I was ready, he threw one straight at me. I laughed again and ran behind a wall. There I made a pile of snowballs, ready to use. But Jim had done the same, and soon I was soaking wet. After a while I laughed so much my stomach hurt, the same way I laughed with my deaf friends at our parties. At last, when I looked up, I saw Jim standing very close to me. But this time he wasn't smiling. He was watching me carefully, just like in the shop. He was waiting for me to answer him, but I couldn't. I looked at his face, hoping he would speak again. After a few moments he did, and I watched his lips closely. There was an outside light on the house, and the snow made everything almost as bright as day. "What's your name?" he asked. This time I knew I had to say something. "Sam," I said carefully. "My name's Sam, Samantha." Then I told him, "I can't hear you. I'm deaf." He stared at me for a long moment, and I wasn't sure if he understood. Then he smiled. "Can you lip read, Sam?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes," I said, "most of the time." "Then lip read this," he said slowly and clearly. "The snowball fight isn't over yet. Get ready." Then he ran back behind his tree. Before I could move, more snowballs flew through the air. I ran back to my wall, laughing. My first snowball hit him right in the face. He sent one back that landed on mine. Snow was cold in my eyes, but I didn't care. I was happy. I knew Jim threw snowballs at me because he liked me. Often when people learn I'm deaf, they treat me too carefully, like I'm something fragile. But it's hard to be close to someone if they act as if you're breakable glass. Jim didn't do that, and I liked it. Soon I was very hot, but I didn't want to stop. I could have played all night, but after 5 minutes, Jim stopped. When I looked to see why, I saw he was speaking, not to me, but to someone behind me. I turned and saw a girl near the house. She was the girl in the red dress, the same one who had opened the door when Ron and I arrived. She was talking to Jim, and she didn't look pleased. Her smile was gone, and her eyes were cold. Jim walked toward me across the snow. When he was close, he smiled and looked at my face. "I'll win next time," he said, and then went back inside with the girl. I stayed in the garden for a little while longer, but it wasn't fun anymore. You can't have a snowball fight alone. When I went back inside, I found Ron in the kitchen. "Sam, you're still here," he signed. "I was looking for you." He looked at my wet clothes. "What happened to your jumper?" Before I could answer, I noticed Jim across the kitchen. The girl in the red dress was talking to him, but he wasn't listening. He was watching me and Ron signing. Ron saw who I was looking at. "Were you outside with Jim?" he asked. He smiled when my red face told him the truth. "I was with Jim, and about 100 snowballs," I signed back, grinning. Ron laughed. More people crowded into the kitchen, and he moved closer. There wasn't enough room for signing anymore, so he spoke carefully. "It's really good to see you, Sam," he said. I like London, but it isn't as much fun without you. Ron has always been like a brother to me, so when he kissed my cheek, I knew it was a brother's kiss. But I didn't know if Jim understood that. Chapter 6. Cleaning Day. The first Saturday in March was what Mum always called Spring Cleaning Day. She liked us to clean the whole house. She worked downstairs while I cleaned upstairs. I preferred upstairs because from my bedroom window I could see the shop. From downstairs, the view was mostly cars in the street. I really wanted to see Jim again, so I often looked out of the window while I cleaned. Once I saw him putting fruit and flowers on the table outside, but he didn't look across the road. The snowball fight was already a week ago. A week feels very long when you're in love. The snow had melted, and I was sorry about that. "Sam, haven't you finished this room yet?" Mum signed, standing in the doorway. She didn't understand why I was still busy in my room. Usually I clean quickly, but this time I wasn't. "Sorry," I signed back, and she smiled. "That's okay. But can you go to the shop for me? I forgot to buy some window cleaner." I couldn't believe it. She was sending me to the shop. "Are you feeling all right, Sam?" Mum asked. "You look hot." "Yes," I answered. "I'm fine." But I knew my face was red. "Are you sure?" "I can go if you like," she said. "No," I signed quickly. "I'll go." And I rushed downstairs and out the door. When I entered the shop, Jim was busy helping a short man choose wine. Jim smiled at me over the man's head. I smiled back, then went to look at the window cleaners. Mum always bought the same one, but I stood there pretending not to know which to choose. I wanted the man to hurry and leave so I could have Jim to myself. At last, the man went out with 2 bottles of wine, one red and one white. I walked over to pay for the cleaner. Jim was writing something on a piece of paper. He gave it to me. The writing was big and bold, like an artist's. It said, "I know more about snowballs than wine." I laughed. He wrote again. "Did you enjoy our snowball fight?" I took the pen. "Yes, very much," I wrote. He read it, then looked straight at me. He started to write once more. "Is Ron your boyfriend?" the paper said. This time I didn't write. I spoke. "No, he's my best friend. I don't have a boyfriend." Jim seemed to understand me easily, because he smiled. Then he moved his mouth carefully, so I could lip read. "Do you want to meet me tomorrow night?" "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." When I got back, Mum asked, "Sam, how long does it take to buy window cleaner?" I only smiled. "Sorry, Mum," I signed and hurried upstairs. It wasn't until I was in her bedroom cleaning that I thought about the girl in the red dress again. Who was she? I didn't want to know the answer. I liked Jim too much to think about her. Chapter 7. A New Romance. The next day, Mum and I went for a walk in Winterton. It is one of my favourite places, east of Norwich by the sea. Mum often took Ron and me there when we were children. It takes about 45 minutes to drive, so we made coffee and sandwiches to take with us. On the beach, the air was cold, but the sun was shining. Children were running with their dog near the water. As we walked, I told Mum all about Jim. When I finished, my face was hot and red. She looked at me closely. "You really like him, don't you?" she asked. The wind blew her hair across her face, but I could still see her smile. "Yes," I admitted. "I do." For a moment she looked a little sad. She walked a short way ahead, then turned back to me. "Love is wonderful," she said, smiling again. "Enjoy it while you can, Sam. Enjoy it while you can." That evening, I really did enjoy myself. Jim and I went to a bar in the old part of Norwich, near the river. Inside was a pool table. I like pool, Ron taught me years ago, and now I'm better than him. Jim saw me watching the table, and right away he put money in the slot. We played, and I won easily in just 5 minutes. My last boyfriend used to get angry when he lost, but Jim only laughed. I liked that. "Very good," he said. "But my snowballs are still better than yours." Then he looked at me. "Can you understand me?" I smiled. "Yes. If you speak slowly, can you understand me?" Jim smiled too. "Yes, I can understand you very well." We sat at a table together, talking for 2 hours. Sometimes we spoke, sometimes we wrote things down. I didn't think about how we were talking. I only cared about what we were saying. This is what I learned about Jim. He was 21, studying English at the university in Norwich, and in his last year. His family lived in Derbyshire, in the middle of England. He had a 25-year-old brother, a 17-year-old sister, and a dog named Skye. He loved walking in the hills near his home, especially in winter when they were white with snow. Winter was his favourite season. The only things he didn't like about Norfolk were that it had few hills and little snow. Mum once told me people from different parts of England sound different. People from Derbyshire don't sound the same as those from London or Norwich. I guessed Jim had a different accent too. Then he asked about me. I told him about Busy Kids, where I worked and played with children. I said the children didn't mind me being deaf. I added that I liked working there, but I also enjoyed writing stories. "One day I want to write a book," I finished. "I'm sure you will," Jim said. "You'll be famous." I wrote on his paper, "I just want to be happy," but really, I already was happy with Jim. Then he asked, "What is it like to be deaf?" He stopped and added, "You don't mind me asking, do you?" "No," I wrote. "I want to tell you, but it's hard." "I think it must be peaceful," Jim said. "I like noise, but sometimes I need quiet. That's why I go walking in the countryside. But even there, it isn't silent. There are cars, animals and birds singing. Mum likes listening to birds sing," I told him. "Yes, me too," he said. "And the wind in the trees." "Sometimes my world feels too quiet," I admitted. Jim touched my hand. "Don't be sad," he said. "I'm not," I replied with a smile. And it was true. I was very happy. Being deaf is a bit like swimming under water. When you look up through the water, everything looks different. The water changes things. Jim moved closer and took my hand. "Fish always live in water. That's all they know." "Yes," I said, and I knew he understood me. "Fish don't know the water makes things look different." When the bar closed, Jim walked me home with his bicycle. It was dark, so I couldn't read his lips. But I didn't mind. Just being with him was enough. We lived in different worlds, me deaf, him hearing. But it didn't matter. Outside my house, we stopped under a streetlight. Jim looked into my eyes. "What's your mobile phone number, so I can text you?" I told him, then showed him how to say goodbye in sign language. He tried it a few times, then showed me another way to say goodbye, with a kiss. That was the way I liked best. Chapter 8. The Girl in Red. That evening was the start of something wonderful. Jim and I met often after that. Sometimes he stayed home to study or went out with friends, but we saw each other whenever we could. We met in cafes, in bars, or just went for walks. Sometimes we wrote on paper, but mostly I read his lips. I also taught him more signs. But often we didn't need words at all. Just being together was enough. When we weren't together, we sent text messages and emails. We spoke to each other every day in some way. It felt like living inside a dream, a very good dream. I was in love, and I was happy. Until the day I saw the girl in the red dress again. The girl from the party. It was a Monday morning, and I was walking to work. Mum had gone early to meet a new parent, so I was alone. The sun was bright, and I felt cheerful. I bought food for the children's lunches, then walked through the park. As usual, I was thinking about Jim. I didn't notice the girl until she stood right in front of me. She wasn't wearing her red dress, but I knew her face. "Hello," I said, but she didn't answer. She just looked at me. Then she started talking very fast. "Please," I said, "can you speak more slowly? I can't understand you." She frowned. I read her lips say, "What? I can't understand you." My face went hot, but I tried again, speaking carefully. "Please speak slowly, so I can read your lips. I'm deaf." This time she spoke very slowly, almost too slowly. I understood each word. "Jim was my boyfriend before he met you. My boyfriend. We were very happy together. I am good for him in a way you can never be." "How can you be good for him? You can't even hear his music." "His music?" I didn't understand what she meant. She looked at me sharply. "You don't know about his music? Jim plays in a band. The band means everything to him. He needs someone who can hear his music. He writes songs. Didn't you know? He always played his songs for me first, before trying them with the band. He could never do that with you. So stay away from him. You'll never make him happy the way I do." She waited for me to answer, but I couldn't speak. I felt too hurt and afraid. At last she repeated, "Stay away from Jim," then turned and walked away. I sat down on a bench under a tree, watching her go. My head was full of her words. She was Jim's girlfriend before me. Was that true? Why hadn't he told me? And he played in a band. Was that true too? I thought I knew Jim, but now I wasn't sure. I only knew that I was frightened. Just then my phone vibrated. It was a text from Jim. "Meet me tonight. I love you, Jim." I didn't reply. When I arrived at Busy Kids, Mum looked at me. "Are you all right, Sam?" she asked. "You look ill." "I'm fine," I signed, taking the shopping into the kitchen. Mum followed. "Sam," she said, "what's wrong?" I didn't want to explain, but her face looked so worried that I told her about the girl. "You must talk to Jim," she said. "Do you want me to call him?" "No," I signed. "Thank you. I need to think." All day I was sad. No, worse than sad. My happy world had broken into pieces. At 4 o'clock, Mum told me to go home early. "I have a friend coming for dinner, but I'm busy here. Can you cook something?" I was glad to leave, but not hungry. Still, I made a pizza for Mum and her friend. She got home at 6 and went to shower. In our house, when someone rings the doorbell, the lights flash on and off so I know someone's there. The kitchen lights flashed while Mum was upstairs. I went to the door. Through the glass I saw a man. It was Jim. I opened the door. He was smiling and holding flowers, red roses, many of them. Roses from a boyfriend to a girlfriend. But in my mind, I saw the girl in the red dress. The roses were the same color as her dress. Did Jim give her roses when they were together? "Thank you," I said, taking the flowers. He said something, but of course I didn't know what. At that moment, I had never felt so sad about being deaf. Jim took the flowers back, placed them on the table inside, then wrapped his arms around me. He didn't need words. His arms told me what he wanted to say, the same as in his text, the same as the roses. "I love you." I was happy Jim loved me, but I was still sad because I felt that maybe love wasn't enough. Chapter 9. Pizza and Truth. When I was about 15, my favorite books and films were love stories. The stories were always the same. There was a man, the hero, and a woman, the heroine. They met, but there was always some problem keeping them apart. Maybe the hero had been hurt in the past and didn't want another girlfriend. Maybe the heroine had an important job and no time for love. But in the end, the stories always finished the same way. They discovered they were in love, and the problems didn't matter anymore. They were happy forever. Children's stories usually end with, and they lived happily ever after. Love stories ended the same. The man and woman were always happy together, with no more problems. But real life isn't like those stories. I'm not a heroine, and my life isn't simple. I had read hundreds of those books, but never one about a deaf girl in love with a boy who plays music. When Mum came downstairs after her shower, her hair was wet, but she was smiling at Jim. Then I realized the truth. Jim was the friend coming for dinner. "I don't want you to be sad," she signed to me while Jim put the roses in water. So I invited him. "After we eat, you can tell him why you're sad. Until then, I'll get to know him better." She was smiling the way children at Busy Kids smile when they've done something a little naughty. I couldn't be angry with her, just as I'm not angry with the children. We ate the pizza, and Mum and Jim talked. She laughed a lot. She clearly liked him. Sometimes she signed to tell me what they were discussing. His studies at university, his family, her days with the Sweet Pepper Band. Jim's father played guitar, she told me. He was quite famous when he was young. Isn't that interesting? Mum was like a girl again, enjoying herself. But I sat quietly watching them. I didn't eat much. I wasn't hungry. I kept thinking, after 2 months of being Jim's girlfriend, I didn't know his father was a famous musician. I didn't know Jim played in a band. I didn't know that the girl from the party used to be his girlfriend. What else didn't I know? After dinner, Mum said, "I'm going out now. I'll wash the plates later. You stay and talk to Jim." She said goodbye and left. I picked up Jim's plate. "Do you want some coffee?" I asked. "No, thank you," he said, watching me. He was waiting for me to speak. I wanted to, but I didn't know how to begin. I wished he could use sign language fluently, so I could tell him everything with my hands, my true language. I wanted to tell him about the girl from the party. Jim waited until I looked at him. "Your mum told me what happened," he said. "She told me about Lauren." So that was her name, Lauren. I didn't like her, and I didn't like her name. "Sam," Jim said. "Lauren wasn't my girlfriend when you and I met. We did go out for a few months, but that was last year. We're just friends now, or we were friends. I'm so angry with her for hurting you." I didn't think Jim was lying. But he still hadn't told me about his music. Jim saw what I was thinking. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my music," he said. "You didn't tell me because it's a problem," I said. "No," he answered. "That's not true." "Yes, it is," I argued. "You love music, and I can't hear it. That's a big problem. You don't really want a deaf girlfriend. You want a hearing one." But by then I wasn't speaking clearly. My voice was strange, because I was upset. Jim didn't understand, so I wrote it down. "You want a girlfriend who can hear your music. I'm not good for you." Jim's face looked so sad. "Don't say that," he said. "It isn't true. I know what I want, and I want you. You're good for me, Sam. Very good." When I didn't reply, he started writing again. "I want to be with you, Sam." What I wanted to write back was, "I want to be with you." But I didn't, because I couldn't forget Lauren's words. Maybe Jim truly wanted me. Maybe Lauren only wanted to hurt me. But one thing was still true. I could never know the Jim who played music. And if I couldn't know that part of him, could I ever really know him at all? Chapter 10. Jim's Band. After that evening, Jim went home. I asked him to leave because I needed time to think. Before he left, He wrote something on a piece of paper and gave it to me. I read it later. It said, "I believe that sometimes it's more important to feel than to think. We love each other. Don't forget that." I didn't forget. I thought about his words all the time. But I also remembered Lauren's words, and I kept thinking about Jim's music. It was the hardest time of my life. Mum saw I was sad. "Take a break from work, Sam," she suggested. "Go to London and visit Ron." It was a good idea. I always had fun with Ron, so I went. But it's not easy to enjoy yourself when your heart is broken. Even in London, I couldn't stop thinking about Jim. And I soon saw that Ron and Mary were now boyfriend and girlfriend, not just friends. Ron tried not to show too much happiness when I was there. He didn't want me to feel worse. But I saw his face whenever he looked at Mary. He smiled the same way I used to smile at Jim. I understood. Of course I did. Just a week ago I felt the same, but not anymore. When it was time for me to return home, Ron came with me to the train station. We stood on the platform while hundreds of people hurried around us. Ron signed. "Sam, I don't think of you as my deaf friend. I think of you as my kind, funny friend. I'm sure Jim feels the same." "I'm lucky to have you," I told him. We kissed goodbye, and I got on the train. I wanted to believe Ron, but Lauren's words still echoed in my head. Jim wants to be with someone who can hear his music. I believed her. When I got home, Mum looked at me. She saw in my face that nothing had changed. "Send Jim a text, Sam," she said. "Please, talk to him. I hate seeing you like this." "I can't," I replied. She studied me carefully. Then she said, "Do you know what I think? I don't think this is about Jim. I think it's about your father." I looked at her, but said nothing. I wanted her to explain. "I didn't want to tell you this," she continued, "but now I think I must." Her face looked so sad that I felt afraid. "What is it?" I asked. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she signed, "Your father left us because he met another woman. She didn't want children and thought your father was wonderful. She only wanted him. Sam, your father didn't leave because you were deaf. He left because he didn't want to be a father at all." Now she was crying, tears running down her face. I wanted to hug her, but she went on signing. "You think Jim will leave you because you're deaf, but I don't believe that. Jim isn't like your father. He doesn't only think about himself. He's a good man, and he loves you." She smiled through her tears. "When you love someone, it's natural to feel afraid. But it's better to be afraid than to be sad. Sometimes you must fight for what you want." She pulled me into her arms, and we both cried. After a few minutes, she smiled again. She was herself once more. "Get your coat," she told me. "I know where Jim Island. Let's go see him." I didn't ask questions. I just followed her. I wanted to see Jim. I wanted that very much. Mum drove through the city. I didn't know where we were going or how she knew where Jim was. I was too busy thinking about love stories and about the problem that was keeping me from Jim. It wasn't really that I was deaf, and it wasn't because my father had left. The problem was me. I was creating obstacles because I was afraid. I was fighting against what I truly wanted, and that was foolish. My love for Jim was too strong to deny. After about 10 minutes, Mum stopped the car. We were near a church, but instead of going inside, she walked to the building next door, St. Mark's Church Hall. Before she opened the door, I stopped her. "How did you know Jim was here?" Mum smiled. "I came while you were in London," she said. "Follow me, it's all right." She opened the door and went in. After a moment, I followed, and there he was, Jim, with 4 other young men. They were playing music. I realized this was Jim's band. Jim was on the drums, 4 different sizes of drums. His hands moved so quickly, faster even than Mum's hands when she signs. I watched him play. At first he didn't see me, but I was happy just to watch. It felt so good to see him again, and at that moment I truly saw him. This was Jim, the real Jim, the Jim who played music. Chapter 11. Ever After. I knew the music was loud because I felt the vibration through the floor. Mum covered her ears with her hands. When Jim noticed me, the vibration stopped. He had stopped playing the drums. He stood up, walked straight over to me, and his friends stopped playing too. Maybe everyone was looking at us, but I didn't care. All I saw was Jim's smile and the love in his eyes before he kissed me. I kissed him back, and for the first time I forgot to be afraid. This was Jim, and I loved him. There was nothing to fear. After a moment he stepped back and began to sign to me. His signs weren't perfect, but I understood, just as he understood me when I spoke. I remembered how fast his hands had been on the drums. There was no problem. This is what he signed. Your mum taught me some signs. Now I'll teach you to play the drums. Come with me. Before I could reply, Jim took my hands in his. He led me to the drums, where his friends were smiling. Mum was smiling too. Everyone seemed happy. Jim stood behind me, guiding my hands. Together we began to play. I felt the vibration move from the drums into my hands, up my arms, and all the way to my head. It was wonderful as when I was a little girl, with my hand on Mum's guitar. Thank you for watching Silent Love. If this story moved you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories in simple English. Leave us a comment to share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.